Let me find it so I can share it. Rotate your phone. You can't turn your phone while... Are we live?
I think we're live.
Yeah, we're live.
Hey, okay, so hi everyone. This is our 4th episode of Benched. We are mic'd for sound this time, so hopefully you can hear us. So it is February 13th, 2021. A lot going on this morning. You can see we are soaked. Just walked. I don't want to misrepresent.
Ran sounds better.
Yeah, and first 5K. This was one of my New Year's. I don't make resolutions, but one of my New Year's goals to do the 5K. So I thought it was like 5 miles. I thought it was 10 miles. I was like, well, I need to train for this. Like maybe I can run one in June. And then I found it was 3.1 miles, and I was like, oh, I can do. Like, let's do this now. Let's sign up and do this because I walk that on a regular basis anyway. So anyway, so I'm here with my friend Joy. I'm Jen.
And I'm Joy, Joycelyn.
And today we want to talk about Valentine's Day and loneliness and the holidays and how maybe to kind of handle some of that. Now, we're not social distance. I hope that doesn't upset anyone, but we are, it's raining, which is why we look the way we do. We walked our 5K in the rain. And so, hope that doesn't upset anyone. Sorry if it offends, but that's kind of where we are. And so we're underneath a canopy here at the Lakeland Yacht Club, a place I'm very familiar with. My husband and I actually met in this parking lot. 30, 35, 36 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, we actually got engaged lake over at Lake Morton. I still have the bench. He bought it from the city. It's on my front porch where he proposed. And so we will be 30 years this June.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
It has been,
a journey.
It's been a journey. You know, you want to say you love every minute of it. I really absolutely love where we are now. And just the intimacy and the relationship and the fact that he is truly my partner.
Yeah.
Best friend, the person I want to spend most of my time with, all my time with. I wish I could quit work and do that, especially after this week. So yeah, he really is. He's my rock. He is. For those of you that know me, I am out there jumping off the cliff. This is what I do, especially if it comes to advocating for somebody. I'm gonna go for it. And he really is my slow but steady rock, and sometimes he grabs me by the collar and he says, oh no, we're not jumping off this one. And I'm grateful for that. He really is truly the man that God wanted me married to. I can honestly say that. And so anyway, so that's where we are 30 years in. So.
Congratulations.
Thank you, and congratulations to you.
That I finished.
Well, that you finished, but also,
Yes.
love of your life at this point as well.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
I think that you brought up a very good point in talking about he's your rock. He's there. And I think that brings us to our loneliness topic because we seek that stability in places that it doesn't exist.
Absolutely. And so we talked about grief. That was our very first episode. Mm-hmm. So there are two emotions that man was never meant to feel. So God put Adam and Eve in the garden, and there were two emotions that man was never meant to feel, but of course the choice with sin caused a change for that. So that was grief. Mm-hmm. The second was loneliness, because God was supposed to fill all of those voids. Mm-hmm. And so we will do anything, and I said this with grief, we will do anything to make grief and loneliness disappear. Mm-hmm. We will fill it with whatever and everything. And, the saddest part about that is sometimes we'll fill it with stuff that is absolutely just harmful for us. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't even want to say not good, but just harmful. We will self-harm to make loneliness go away because it feels so awful. And that starts that whole cycle again. You were lonely, you did something, then you have regrets, then you get lonely again, and it just keeps, it keeps that cycle perpetuated, and it's horrible. Loneliness is absolutely horrible. So we're going to talk about loneliness as it represents kind of three different events in our lives, I guess, or three different issues in our lives. The first one we kind of want to talk about is, as we talked about last week with Rosa Parks, right now, so much going on. And if you choose to be an advocate or you choose to take a stand with something, you have to anticipate that it's going to be a very lonely place.
It is definitely a lonely place.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
This week, I don't know if you had a chance to watch the school board meeting, Hillsborough County or not, but if you did, you probably saw me. And I was on the receiving end of, I had a parent and a student talk that I'd advocated for, and I didn't want them to feel lonely, so I changed my whole topic, what I was going to speak at the school board about to support them. And then after I had my conversation, I wound up on the back end of some loneliness too, because people just wanted to back out. You know, they didn't want to, as I would say, stay on the bus till the end, right? They didn't want to go through with the whole thing. So you got to understand that if you're going to choose to stand in some tough places, loneliness is going to be a part of that.
Right. And I got to see you at the school board meeting, and I sent a message right after and said, that was simply brilliant.
Right.
Because you were standing alone and you were speaking on an agenda that wasn't in your plan. Like
Right.
you were able to switch that up, and you made a conscious decision to, this is what I'm going to talk about versus this. And it still left your desire unfed.
It did.
Yeah.
It did.
And you still now are trying to figure out, what do I do to feed my desire?
Exactly.
Right. So, and that's a struggle that we just genuinely make, because we feel like we have to interject ourselves in this space, and it leaves our space open and vulnerable. And we still need that. We need that filled from someplace.
Right.
But you were definitely brilliant in that. And I didn't know that grief and loneliness we weren't supposed to feel.
No, so God never intended death, right?
Right. Okay.
So sin brought death into the garden.
Okay.
Okay. The choices there, the free will that man has, right?
Ooh.
So that brought sin into the garden, and of course loneliness. God created Adam and said, it's not good for man to be alone. So He created a partner, female, for Adam, and therefore, but when they chose to sin, then that created separation from God,
Right.
And of course we know Jesus Christ sending His Son. That's
Okay.
resolved that issue, but still. The sin separates.
But I feel like, in just you saying that, it just offers so much clarity to me on the idea of being lonely, because you're right, we feel it from any place, and it's almost like, instead of craving that relationship or allowing God to fill those places in our life, we seek from man, and it's absent, it's empty,
Right.
and you're in this space. You do something, you regret it 10 minutes after you finish, and then you're sulking in it, and then you try to self-heal or medicate, and you feel lonely again, and you just end up in the crazy cycle.
It is a horrible cycle.
One day you wake up and realize, I've collected so much crap, and all I had to do was
let it go. Be free,
yeah,
right? We always talk about that.
Be free, like just to
Right.
not move,
Right.
not get up at my seat, right?
Right. And it's,
so-
it's so easy to collect those regrets, because to ease that loneliness, we will dabble in places, right? And not understanding that, there is a bigger picture, that, there's an enemy out there that wants to steal, kill, and destroy, and that's the truth.
Yes.
And when we think we're dabbling, we don't have control over where that dabbling's going to
go. We don't know the
we don't.
consequences
Especially,
attached
I
to
think,
them.
as women.
Yeah. Oh,
we are
man.
incredibly vulnerable to that.
Oh my God.
And it leads to some, we give away our power almost to someone else when that was never what it was intended to be.
Right.
And that's a real difficult place to be. So along the journey, I've been married since, I think I was graduated from college 1 year, and then we got married. So I don't really know. I mean, when I never dated in high school, really. I think I had one boyfriend. Maybe one. That's sad. Anyway.
We have such different lives.
We do.
I'm sitting here listening.
We have such different lives.
I'm like, really
Which
now?
is why this works. We were walking and talking
like,
today. That's why it works. I think I had one boyfriend in high school. I had a relationship in college, which was just one of those detrimental type relationships. And then I met my husband, and that's kind of my story. I really don't have. But as far as loneliness goes, again, the Asperger's, I was lonely. I don't even think I recognized it, though, a lot. But I didn't have a whole lot of friends.
Right.
So I was lonely from that standpoint, that I didn't know how to make relationships or keep relationships. And so I spent a lot of my youth just very lonely.
Yeah, I think I would have to say I agree with you with that. That was a part of my life, and I always talk about how I was in such a large family and I was always alone. Like, so my parents were divorced and I lived with my mom and I stayed with my dad who had 6 other kids. But even with all those people, I was still by myself. I just felt that way. There was no connectivity to, like, I just was by myself. I'd get a book and go to my room and read, or I'd go, anything, draw, whatever, just to, because that was filling to me, because of being in the presence of someone else, it was almost like I was an outsider in it. And that was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So it was almost like, let me shy away from it.
Right. And that is, you think about that in a relationship, being alone in a relationship is the most awful kind of lonely.
Because you're looking at this person thinking, I'm supposed to feel something.
Right.
There's something happening that's not. Something's supposed to be happening, and it's not. And that's a horrible place to be. I've been there with my marriage. I was married, and I would look to my husband to think that, aren't we supposed to be giving something to each other? Like, isn't there something supposed to be happening here? And it wasn't. But that was me looking to human to fill those voids in my life, when and that's not the way it was supposed to be, but it's what I chose. And
a lot of people get married thinking that this other person is supposed to make me happy. And this person is going to make me happy. And when you're dating, right, and you're going places and you're having a good time, and I often joke, my husband, he didn't eat salad dressing.
Oh, wow.
When we first started dating, I was like, who doesn't eat salad? Like, what? No. So anyway, so I introduced him kind of to salad dressing, and we always joke about I'm his dressing on his life salad. Yeah, that's kind of how we joke. And when you look at someone else to try to bring you happiness, that is, especially if you're not communicating what you need, and you're just expecting that person to understand and know. That is the most awful. And again, you're dating, you're having a good time, and then you get married, and that all kind of ends, like, because you don't go out every night, right? There's budgets, and there's
bills and responsibilities,
and you got to get up and go to work, and all those pieces. And at that time, it just gets worse. It gets worse, and it's really, really difficult once you kind of get in that cycle of loneliness in a relationship to come out of it. Because it requires a tremendous amount of work, and if both people aren't willing to give it,
it's over. It's a wrap.
It's over. Yeah.
You know what I think? What I figured out is that, and I don't know if I should say this on camera, but I had no idea what I needed. I would say what I need. I need this, or I need this, and you know what? I need a man who's this. I need a man who's this. I need a man who's this. And then I'd meet him, and he didn't have any teeth. And I'm like, well, damn, am I supposed to be that specific? Like, I gotta say teeth, so I didn't know what I needed. And even my wants were iffy because I didn't know myself. I didn't have that intimate relationship with me. When those things start happening, I realize I'm the source of my loneliness because I'm not even aware of who I am. I haven't even lived enough to experience me and the things that bring me genuine pleasure and unconditional love and that emotional high that you imagine you see when you see the gates. I didn't know that about myself. So I started getting to know me. Like, do I even like that? Or once I started opening myself up, the loneliness for me kind of started subsiding because I knew where I could find things that didn't harm me, that helped me. I knew how to have people who approached me to push them away because they didn't feel good to me. And that was really, I had to learn a lot about myself to get past that because I was a mess.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you're a mess.
I was
But yeah, no, I understand that. And, again, I just want to bring up the Asperger's piece. So a lot of times, because I don't understand intent, and this is one of the things that my husband is really good at for me, and I wish I had listened years ago, and forgive me, Greg, but I don't understand intent of people sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
So when people come at me and they want to hurt me, I don't get it.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
And so I'm like, well, why would you like...
What's the point of that?
Exactly. You just...
Yeah.
So now I really have, and I've gotten to a place where I can just say people are mean.
Yeah.
Like, this is my new, you're just mean.
You know what?
I don't have to be around you.
Stop talking to me.
Stop talking to me.
Stop talking to me because I feel like you're going to hurt me.
Right.
Stop talking to me. And that's people get caught up in that all the time. And I would say, like, well, I mean, before they stole all the stuff out of your house and they had been there before, you didn't know they were a thief. Like,
Yeah.
you didn't have conversations beforehand.
Right.
And a lot of people allow, I'm always like, by the time it gets to something extreme, there's already an established behavior pattern. And that's because I'm so like, the intention is weirded out to me, so I'm going to stay away from it.
Behavior is predictable.
Yeah.
Right. And this
Yeah.
is what I do in my job every day. You think in
Yeah.
my regular life I would get this right. So yeah. So you don't have to. And if you're in a relationship and someone is being mean, and I'm just going to throw that word out there. It's not a word we use often.
No, but it's a real word.
Right. It's a real word. And so if somebody's being mean, you don't have to put up with that.
Yeah.
You don't. And better to be alone by yourself
And safe.
and safe than alone with someone who is
Treating
mean.
you. Yep.
Yeah.
And I think for me, one of the questions, because I didn't understand a lot of the cues, right? And then I was picking up on tone, and a question I started asking was, oh, is it your intention to speak with me this way? Because I feel like I want to. And people will double step on that. They're like, well, I was just saying. And I'm like, no, not what you were just saying. I'm trying to get, like, are you coming for me? Is this a duel? Like, are we about to battle here? Because I'm not ready to battle. I need to know where you are so that I can protect myself. And that has really put me in a good position of awareness, because I'm not afraid to say, hey, is it your intention? And I've asked V before, well, that's what you want to say to me? Did you mean to say that? Like, because it doesn't feel good. And when you talk about your feelings and people don't care about them, you know those aren't the people that you need to be interacting with.
Absolutely.
You know their intention is ill of you, right? If they're not aware of, or want to be aware of how you feel and how you're processing, then let them go, because that's not changing. It doesn't just all of a sudden go away that they care.
Right. Somebody gave me some real good advice when I was working. I know it's hard to believe looking at me right now like a drowned rat, but at one point I had this job in a office where I was, this is funny if you know me, I was supposed to be the hostess when people came through the door. It was my job to basically make them feel welcome and warm and all of that stuff. So, I do have a gift for people.
Yeah, you do have a gift for people.
But yeah, I keep it reserved most of the time. So, but yeah, so that was kind of my job in this big corporation, and I remember I worked for this this VP, and so the stock market crash had happened, and he came out in the lobby, and he was just sitting there, and I was like, I'm not going to mention his name, and I said, "Are you okay?" And he said, "No." I said, "Okay." So he said, "I think I just lost most of my money." And I said, "Really?" I said, "Well, what are you going to do?" Like, because I'm thinking in my mind, I was young. I was very young. I was like 19. So I'm thinking in my mind, you just lost all your money. Well, that means like destitute, like you have
it's like, because I lose my $20, I've got to figure this out.
So I'm trying to go there. And he said, now this was back when you could smoke in places, right? So he lit a cigarette and he said, sometimes you just got to cut your losses and run. And you know, it's kind of stuck with me, and that's been some good advice. Yeah. Sometimes you just got to cut your losses and run. So again, if you're in a relationship and it's not working for you, chances are, if you've been at it and you've tried everything, it's not going to work. The other person is not going to change for you.
That's right.
You know, now
and your hope is a waste. We talked about hope.
Yeah.
Don't put your hope in that empty space.
Yes.
Like you don't. We create our own hell in which we exist, and we have to own that. We have the power to do that. Like, we've been given the power to just manifest goodness. Yeah. We've been given that power, and when we are sulking and drowning, we're not being of purpose. We're not being pleasing. You know, we have all of these things that we're not being simply because we're choosing to what? Sacrifice ourselves to another human person.
Right.
Like, why would we do that?
Right.
You know, God didn't choose you to be less than for the sake of somebody else.
Exactly.
That's not a choice that was made. The choice is you come here and you be of my purpose and you do good for me. And like, that's what we're supposed to do. And we just sit in this yucky space of existence to say we're with somebody.
Right. And now I'm not talking about, you know, I'm not talking about just leaving your husband because it doesn't feel good. I'm talking about you have tried.
Oh, yeah.
Right? You have tried. you have tried. You know, you've tried to work it out. You've tried counseling.
Not you. You both have.
Both have, yes.
You both have.
Yes,
it has
you
to
both
be.
have.
And if you're trying and they're doing nothing, that
Exactly.
lets you know. That answers your
Right,
question.
right.
Honey, you want to go to counseling? I ain't going to counseling.
And I have known women.
Yeah.
They wanted to save their marriage,
Yeah.
and the partner was just not cooperating.
And you know why?
Right.
Because they've been the exact same since the beginning. You're the one that's now wanting them to do something different.
Right.
You're creating your own,
Right.
when you're not being truthful of the situation and where you are and being
Right.
yourself, it creates havoc.
Right, right.
Because now you're like, honey, I want you to love me and I want you to touch me and I want you to take me to the movies. And he's like, well, you did that in 30 years and you've been fine. And today you want me to, I'm not doing that.
Right.
And then what do you do?
Right. And you and I were walking and talking, and we were talking a little bit about that intimacy piece.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and fighting hard. Like if you've had, you know, you got married and it was good, and the intimacy piece was there, and I'm talking about communication and all kind of levels of intimacy, and it was good and it was right, and then, you know, a
Life.
dog or kids or life and
Yeah.
bills and stressors and job loss and pandemics, all of this stuff started coming along. In-laws.
We're gonna say the P word,
Yeah,
pandemic. We're gonna call it the P word.
P word. So all of that stuff started coming along, and the communication began to break down, and the intimacy began to break down, and getting that back,
Yeah, I bet
it's work.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure.
I mean, it's work to get back to where you were. It's not an easy thing. You're not just going to roll over one night and say, "Hey, you know, let's fix this." It doesn't work that way. It's a, you know, it takes time, and I, you know, I can honestly say at one point, you know, I had 2 counselors working on a situation with me. You know, I had one for me, I had one kind of for the marriage, and we were kind of clicking along and trying to get this thing back to where we wanted it to be, and that was, it was a lot of work. And not only that, but I was suffering some depression at the time. I had my doctor in on it as well, a spiritual journey with my church at the time as well, and so all of those pieces had to really come together, and I really needed a team of people surrounding
you
me.
can trust.
Right, and I mean, I do my quiet time, and I talk to God, and I spend hours in prayer. So it wasn't like, you know, God and I were separated. It was I needed a team. I did. I needed some help, and
your husband trusted that you. Your husband trusted that you were doing these things for the good of, and he gave you that space.
And he
that
was all in
grace.
too.
Right.
Yeah,
you know,
he was
just
all in too. Yeah.
it wasn't him
Yeah.
saying like, "Oh, honey, you just go do it." It's like, this is happening,
Right.
and I have to be capable of her and all of the others in this space because we're trying to move
Yes.
this thing forward.
Yeah, exactly.
We need to move this thing forward.
But it was a lot of work,
Yeah.
and it was not easy. And he and I had to communicate every step of the way.
Yeah.
There was no wiggle room. In fact, when I text men, and I still do this with some, when I texted men, any man, including my boss, right? I included him on the text. Now we backed away from some of that just because, you know, but I included him on the text just so he understood, you know, where our intentions were, where my heart was, where
You
we
just
wanted
took the
this thing.
wonder from him.
Yeah.
You didn't want him to have that.
I didn't.
You know, I think that, so this will be my second time being married, and the first time I
We're
was,
so excited for you,
I
by
know,
the way.
I slipped that in there.
Yeah.
So the first time I was just young and just finding my way, and it was a disaster in a good way that I've learned so much about myself, and there were no regrets about leaving it. So, and that's just what that was supposed to be. But I feel like now being in just this relationship is that the one thing that I can offer my husband is to be available to him, and not just in a physical space, but present in
Right.
the conversation. And sometimes I'm rambling about stuff and telling him stuff, and he's probably like, can't hear because got his earbuds in, and he'll say, "What'd you say, babe?" But just knowing that, just knowing that he is, I am available to him, and he is available to me. I think that probably helps out, because I worry about that being
Right.
married piece. I worry about it because I won't say my first marriage failed. I mean, 9/11 equivalent to bomb hitting it. I mean, a plane running into it. I mean, something like that.
Right,
But
right.
yeah, but no, I won't say it failed seriously. I just think that I didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't have any support and any guidance from somebody outside of me. Like, I didn't have God, I didn't have my parents. Just to have that conversation. I need to sign.
Yeah.
Just to have that conversation, I had to make sure, just like I had to make sure that.
Get in here. There you go.
Okay. I had to. Now I want to make sure that I'm not selling a bag of bad goods. I want to make sure that I'm being good, that I'm aware enough of myself to feel those moments that I'm needing something and not expecting him to do it. Like for me to say, I'm bored. I mean, what does that say to him? Like, he's probably like, I have no idea what the hell you want me to do. You do a million things. You're probably thinking a million, and you want me to what?
Right.
But just to be able to kind of self-satisfy some of those things, but making sure that I am still available. So that's terrifying to me.
Well, I'm sorry that you're terrified. We're also very happy for you. Because you are so in love.
I'm saying, just don't mess up.
But you know that word
Just
available.
don't mess up.
And so, right.
Don't mess up.
You're not going to mess up. This is going to be good. And I'll come to Atlanta if you do. And jack you up a little bit. But no.
Thank you, my team.
You're welcome. I'll be part of your team. So you use that word available. And that's huge in relationships. And especially, I think, for a generation under us, because they've not made themselves available to anything except electronics.
Ooh.
And so I just want to camp out there a minute when we talk about loneliness, right? So electronics have enabled you to have virtual relationships. I don't want to camp out on the pornography thing, but that has done so much damage.
To the idea,
America.
yeah,
To America.
but even to
To the
the
world.
idea of what intimacy is, like, we got to do something separate on that, because that's a whole thing.
We'll have to do another one.
Yeah,
but,
this is a whole thing.
But that whole cycle of you've got it in your hand now. Remember, like when we were growing up, you had to go to the store and it was embarrassing, and
it was
I
covered
never
behind,
did it,
or somebody threw a magazine away and you found it and you're looking at pictures.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
but now
So
it's like
it's right there and it's readily available, and it has just damaged so many relationships, and just young men and their expectations of what intimacy, sex, what that should be, is damaged. It is just, and marriages just riddled. So making yourself available, huge. I know every time summer ends, my husband is always, he's always, I don't like you not being around, because when I'm at the house, I'm available to him.
Right.
And it's not that he needs me home and barefoot and pregnant. It's just he knows where I am. If he needs something, if he needs me to run something to work, if he needs to have lunch, if he needs, I'm there and I am available. And so really kind of even working on that this year with my career. Realizing that there are some things that I need to do to continue to make myself available to him, even with my career. So
I was trying to weigh it.
sorry, it's our because it was raining, we didn't invite our tech guy.
Yeah, that's right.
George, we miss you. Just to let you know, George Humphrey is our tech guy.
But people love the behind the scenes.
Yeah,
this is
this is one of our blooper episodes.
Yeah.
So, although the sun is out, it's nice.
Yes.
The rain is leaving us. And again, if you haven't been to Lake Hollingsworth, I know I have a lot of friends in Hillsborough County. If you've not been, this is in Lakeland. It's kind of Florida Southern College is on the lake. It's a beautiful lake. It's about, I think it's about 3 miles around.
It is. We just did that 5K.
Yeah, 3 miles around.
Yeah.
It's a nice walk. So you can come and walk and be part of it.
Yeah. I think that for me, I think you do a lot for me in my friendship and companionship at work.
Well, thank you.
Because you offer a safe space that I'm not seeking. It's like I've identified pockets that are unhealthy for me and places that it's not good for me to interact. And I make it a point of not to engage outside of business responsibilities. But you give me that place to just kind of let my hair down a little at work. And I appreciate that, because I literally sit in my classroom and wait for my students to come to me. So when we get to interact and I know that you're there and we're texting through meetings, it keeps me human. It keeps me aware, available. It makes me in the moment, you know, and I really appreciate that, because at work is a tough place. You experience that loneliness at work.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and you get caught up.
Yeah, so this year there's been some restructuring. I think we kind of talked about this in our last episode. So there's been restructuring, and I have been caught up in quite a bit of that just because of where my job lies. And you talk about that loneliness at work. I mean, there have been days that I have just gone in and shut the door, and I've been like, I think I came into the cafeteria at one point, or the teacher's lounge there, and you guys were like, we've been missing you. I said, I've been missing me too.
Yeah.
Because it does, and it gets lonely, and you start feeling defeated, you know, and you start that ambiguity in communication again. What are they thinking of me? You know, and you get to a point where you don't want to do it anymore. And I was at that point, you know, and I texted my boss. I said, I don't want to come in anymore. Yeah. I'm done. You know, and he began working then on fixing some things that were wrong there. So that friendship piece is huge.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
Huge. You need to find good friends.
And you know, gosh, this is a whole nother episode, but what I figured out, your friends you have to be equally yoked with your friends. Your friends aren't people who take from you, like who constantly are draining you of resources and time. They have to be in a reciprocal giving. That's friendship. Otherwise, it's an associate or somebody that you're doing for, and then we get lost because we expect them to return what we've done, and they can't. And we knew that they couldn't, and we're disappointed. We create, we would create that.
I have teenagers come and sit in my private practice, and they'll say, well, you know, she's toxic. I'm in a toxic relationship. And I'm like, okay, if it's toxic, there shouldn't be a relationship. Like, there's not, you know, those two things don't exist. So we need to get finished speaking those words. If it's toxic,
but they're afraid to leave.
It should be done.
But they're afraid to leave. It's what they know. And
especially if it's a popular issue.
And if the home is toxic, and that's what you see. If your relationships at home see your family in toxic relationships, you think, oh, it's supposed to be this way. How many people think their relationships are supposed to suck? Well, they say it's hard work, and it's going to be this, and men will be men, and da da da. And you're like, what? You're going to spend your life suffering? Because what? Toxic.
Because men will be men,
Yeah.
So, and they will be, but the reality of that is, you know,
great men. Men will be great men. That's it.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So you need to search and find. And again, you talk about you and I. I mean, you and I don't agree. I mean, there are some things that we are on opposites.
Yeah.
Ends of the spectrum on.
Yeah.
You know, politics is one of those sometimes. Yes. You know, and so we, you know, but it's not an issue for us.
No.
You know, we don't. It's just not an issue.
I think because, well, I know for me, I recognize that those things are just on my path to being of God's purpose. Exactly. It's not going to make or break me. I'm not going to go campaigning on some crazy, because I'm like, this is just in passing. Right. It's like the red light. It's like, oh my God, every light was red. Well, every light was green with me. Well, you're so lucky. No, we're not. It's just where I was for the moment. And it's just how I believe based on where I've come from and what I've known and how I've grown. But I'm always open to somebody's opinion of what they think and why. I'm just not, I don't get to be beat up over it. Like, I don't get to get beat over the head to make me think, or, you know, just respect me as the respect that I give. So, you know, it's just really interesting. But we wouldn't have a differences of falling out because we both respect each other as women. We're women, we're about the same age.
And we communicate. And that's huge. And, you know, I had a friend who, it was earlier this year, and she said to me, she said, you know, I want to be free like you. I want to be able to do the next thing that God has asked me to do. I want to, you know, I want to be free. I want the freedom you have. Can you tell me how to get there? And I said to her, you know, I didn't even camp out on that. I said, but I need you to understand that there are days this is not fun.
Yeah.
You know, this is not fun. There are days I don't want to go into work. There are days when I am in front of the school board having to fight for something that I'd rather not be doing. I mean, I was shaking. Yeah. Like, you know, I was nervous. And, you know, it takes a whole lot of courage to have that kind of freedom where you don't want to experience that loneliness, where you want to be in a relationship that is good with friends, with husbands, with children. You know, it takes a whole lot of courage to get there. And there is a possibility you may need a team, someone to help you.
Yeah, because the first step to getting to freedom was telling yourself the truth about the situation you're in. Yeah. when you can be honest and open about who you are and where you are and why you're there, and own that these are things that you've chosen, that's going to be your first step to getting to freedom. You won't be free if you're covering up baggage or hiding secrets or lying about what is. And that was for me, that was my thing within my marriage. It's a great marriage. I had beautiful home, nice cars, 3 great kids. It all looked so pretty, and I painted the picture with my words. But when I had to look at myself and tell myself the truth about the ghost town that it really was, that broke me down, because I had been lying to myself. And when you can lie to yourself and believe it, that's a real psychological issue.
That is an issue.
Yeah. So when I had to just confront myself, when I had to confront myself, and I imagine seeing the reflection of God in me in the mirror, when I have to go to God and say, I know I lied about these things. It's not this. It's not this. It's not this. It wasn't about the people around me. It was about me. And that was my first step to freedom. Just telling myself the truth.
What you're talking about there is repentance, right? And being able to, I prefer an altar, because for me that is a holy place, but being able to repent of where you've been, the mistakes you've made, the regrets, the things you've done to chase, to be able to lay those down, in front of a holy God and believe that he can take them, and that's where the restoration comes in. That's where we talk about that whole cycle of, God never intended loneliness. Well, to get back in that relationship, there's the repentance, and then there's the restoration, right? And then from there, you do the next thing, which is what he asked you, when he asked you, and how he asked you.
Absolutely.
And that's it.
Yeah. And I was literally talking about with my kids, thinking like, well, what'll happen to my kids if I do this and what? But then I had to realize, so if I've been given the strength and the wherewithal to accept my truth, and I'm believing that I'm here for a purpose, then I have to also trust that God will provide me the resources that I need to get them through what they need, to get them to where he needs them to be. Because they only use me as a portal to get here. They're still his. I have to get them there. And I had to stand firm on that. That's why now I try so hard to be patient with the steps and decisions that they're making, because I spent the first part of their life lying about what their life was.
Regrets as a mama.
Right. So that was on me. I have to stand firm and I had to take the harsh words and the realities that they found and figured out, because it was on me for lying to them, for misrepresenting what it was, and for confirming love from places that it wasn't there. Just, oh yeah, he loves you, and oh yeah, I had to own that, and I had to take it. I'm still taking it. I'm still like, it's getting easier and it's getting better.
Right.
But it's still, I couldn't walk away from them, because I need them. I need to be able to say, here, God, here, you gave me the resources. Here they are for you now. I need to be able to do that.
And I tell parents in my practice all the time, God gave you those children. Therefore, he gave you everything you need to raise those children.
Absolutely.
Train up a child in the way they should go. That doesn't mean you put them in church every Sunday. That's not the way that works. It means you train them up according to the gifts he has given you,
and them,
according to the gifts he has given them.
Yep, absolutely.
We do a spiritual gifts inventory. I did one with you.
Yeah, we sure did.
We do that in my private practice a lot. This is what God has given you and promised you. And until you really know your worth in him, you're going to continue to be lonely. You just are, because you're not going to know which way to move. And then that, Tommy Warnock at First Baptist Church Plant City, he says this all the time, and this is such a good statement. If you belong to God, right? If you have surrendered your life to Christ, you are in him. The enemy cannot pluck you out of his hand. However, he can bench you. And the way he benches you is he gets in your ear and he tells you, you're not good enough. You're not good enough. They didn't ask you. You couldn't
do it.
You can't do it. You might as well put on this face. You might as well, he benches you, and you just wind up sitting there instead of doing the next thing. And then that, the anger. Yeah. And I'm going to do it my way. And then, again, the loneliness creeps in, and you continue to perpetuate that whole cycle. Well, I'm going to look at what I want to on my phone. Yeah. Or I'm going to do whatever it is to fill that void, when the reality is the enemy's just benched you. And get off the bench. Yeah. Get off the... I shouldn't say that. Well, we're not enemies today, but yeah. Yeah.
And we're not the enemy. I just think that we have to believe that. We have to know that you have to recognize his voice in you. And the way that you become familiar with his voice in you is to have the conversation over and over.
Intimacy with him.
And you feel the goodness that comes from moving where he wants you to move. So when you're moving in a different direction, you're like, yeah, this isn't as fluid as it once was. Let me take a step back here. Let me kind of pause in it and trust the decisions that you make.
Yeah.
And trust it.
Tuesday when I spoke at the board meeting, I had come and we kind of joked about me stepping up there and speaking about the 5K and kind of joking with them about that because reality is when I speak at a school, it's usually not about such things. It's usually tougher. And so I texted my boss, Mr. Bobo. You guys know him, my Monday through Friday pastor, sometimes Saturday and Sunday as well. And I texted him and I was like, okay, I'm changing what I'm talking on. And he texted back, wait a minute, let me tune in. So,
he's like, oh, Lord.
Oh, yes.
Here she comes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so, that communication piece there, and as we went through that, and just kind of, he texted me afterwards, and he said, I'm not going to repeat what he said. I'm not going to repeat what he said. So I texted him back, though. I said, but if I hadn't have done it, I wouldn't have been able to sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to do it.
I had to do it. I had to stand with those parents.
Yeah.
Right? So it was a matter of me. And again, this whole week, and there was more stuff, but as I told you when we were walking, Thursday I just sat in my office. I had about 30 minutes left before I was about to sign out. And I just really had an emotional breakdown. And something else went on Thursday. There was a lot of moving pieces.
But I think it was more of a release, though.
I think so, too.
And so maybe not a breakdown, more just like you've been working on these things for weeks.
Right.
And finally the light shines. And it's just like, it's a release.
Yeah.
So it was probably good. It probably allowed you to enjoy your weekend more.
Right.
And just to
Let
leave that at work and move it on home.
But it was a lonely moment.
Yeah. Oh.
I mean, it was a lonely moment, and the tears came and they flowed,
and it was supposed to be, because nobody could do anything in that moment for you.
Absolutely.
That wouldn't have happened.
Yeah,
you were supposed to be there.
Yeah, there was nothing that could be done. And you are exactly right. I needed to be alone with my feelings, my thoughts, my emotions from the whole week and everything I'd done. But had it, like you say, I had stuff to do this weekend. This 5K, we got
plans.
Valentine's Day going on tonight. Rented the theater. So we got those things going on tonight. And so I needed it.
Yeah, you need to let it go.
Exactly.
Wrap that up so I can go. And that's how. I think people don't. Being in education, people don't understand that it's exhausting. Like, you think of all the energies and personalities that you deal with in a day, and we're not talking about the adults. It's not the adult. We're talking about the children,
Right.
because they're learning, and we literally have to serve as a host for them. For even if it's for 30 minutes or 50 minutes, we have to host them to get them through to the next thing. That's exhausting.
Yeah.
So when the weekend hits, it's like, and then you don't want to not be available to your family. Right? But you still have to be able to shift that. And it's exhausting.
It is exhausting. And lonely.
And we worry about those kids.
We do worry about them, too.
Jesus.
And how many of our kids are lonely?
Oh, my God.
Ooh.
And I can't even.
Yeah,
That's another conversation.
That is another. And what are they doing? Running the streets
Right now.
to try to
cope.
those.
Somebody says, "Oh, here, I got some weed, or I got some pills, or try this, and you'll go to sleep." And if you sleep, you don't feel lonely. Yeah, and that's why our kids get caught up in that.
Yeah.
They do, and that weighs on me. I think of them all the time.
Think about how many addictions have started because someone was lonely.
Yeah. Oh my
Wanted
gosh.
to fill the space,
Ooh.
and we know we deal with addiction, and addiction. How many times I can probably count in alternative ed on my finger the issues that we have seen in the community, including our friend, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can count on my hand those that weren't caused by addiction.
Yeah.
Because typically when an issue, and we just had a student, right? Typically when an issue happens, it's usually based on addiction or because of addiction.
Not making any judgments. And families facilitate a lot of this behavior. They make it available to, and their kids, children. Oh, I'm not even talking about it. I'm getting so annoyed.
Another episode.
Yeah, I'm getting so annoyed right now.
So here's the thing, and in saying all that, so own your loneliness if you're alone. right? If you're in a relationship, somebody's being mean, get some help. Let the tears fall.
Yes.
It's okay.
Cleansing.
It's okay. Yeah. So the only way to get back to where you need to be, as we just talked about, that repentance, that restoration, the intimacy piece, but it takes hard work. It really does. And don't give up.
Yeah.
If you start today, or if you want to start tomorrow, if you want to start Monday, just don't give up. Keep doing the next thing. Again, do what God tells you, when He tells you, and how He tells you, and it's going to be all right, because His plans for you are not to harm you.
And when you're in this lonely space, remind yourself that He chose you. God chose you. He single-handedly picked you to be here.
Right.
And when you can have
That's where I
value,
was Thursday.
yeah, when you have value in your presence because you know that you've been selected by God, morning will come.
Absolutely.
They say the night is the worst time.
Right.
Morning will come.
Morning
The
will
sun will shine. We bank on it. We bank on daylight. And that's one of the things He does to remind us that He is. The sun will shine. So that's for me is one of the most valuable things is knowing that I was chosen. And that beats man at any time. Go talk to God. He chose me.
Absolutely.
Tell him you don't like something I'm doing. Go talk to God. He's giving me permission.
So I think we're going to wrap this up, and we're going to go home and get warm. It's a little chilly out here now after being soaked.
What a great morning.
Great morning. And again, it's turning into a beautiful day. The sky is clearing. Get out and do something today.
Yeah.
1 Peter 4:8, above all else, love well, because love covers a multitude of sins. Next month, a very special bench from Asheville, North Carolina.
Ooh.
I'll be speaking to my former student, Mark Starling. We'll be at a bench probably around the Biltmore Village is what I'm thinking.
Nice.
Yes, and we're going to talk about communication.
Very nice.
He works on a radio, or he is a DJ. Do you call him DJ anymore?
I don't know.
There's probably another name for him.
I don't know.
He's talk radio, so that's even different.
Well, I think they still call them
DJs?
DJs. DJs are VJs are videos.
I don't know.
Yeah, but so DJ.
Yeah,
I
so
guess.
he's North Carolina News 570. It's a Fox News station. Don't turn off because I just said Fox, and don't celebrate the other side because I just said Fox. But he is Fox. He is Fox News, and we're going to be talking about communication and how he wound up where he was and all those things. And
I think you had us sold at he's my former student.
my former student.
It didn't matter where he
Where
is.
he is.
That's where it happens with the
Yes.
students.
Yeah.
You're like staunch whatever, and your student says, "But I'm over here," and you're like, "That's so awesome! I gotta come see you." You completely forget.
Well, you know me. I'm for the underdog.
Yeah, that's
wherever
what the
they are,
baby.
so-
That's what we do for the babies. They make us say, "You're what? Oh, that's amazing! I'm gonna come see you."
Yeah, exactly. So he and I will be on a bench in North Carolina
That's nice.
next month. So tune
Yeah.
in for that. We'll see you. This has been the 4th episode of Benched. If you
me
need
stay in the
to
camera.
discuss, you need to stay in the camera. If you need to discuss loneliness or anything, you can hit up Jocelyn Wells
Yep.
on Facebook.
Yep.
And me, Jennifer Shiver. You can look us up, or the Bench Counselor, hashtag Bench. Let's get that right. Hashtag Bench Counselor. You can look us up, and we'll be glad to chat with you, talk with you, or if you're in a relationship where someone's being mean to you.
Yep.
Please,
We can help you get through that.
help you
Yep.
get through that, or if you need to call 911, you do that as well,
Yep.
because nobody needs to be harmed.
Yep.
All right? So, see ya. Enjoy your Saturday.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.